You're listening to Just 3 Clicks, and this is episode 26. It's called Knowledge is Power. And then there's like a subtitle here that says, it is what you know, what you think you know, what you don't know.
It's quite hard to read that.
Known knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns. He likes his wordplay, Nindy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, cool. You've not been on for a while.
No, is it? Well, I looked at the date when we were meant to be doing this on because we must be a bit behind because the date on there is April. At the top of it, it says record in April.
Oh, shit.
Release in May, and it's July today.
It might be one that we were supposed to do ages ago.
And then it got changed,
back.
yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to talk about knowledge, basically.
Knowledge.
And how it's power. So obviously the whole idea of this is like how information changes things. It sounds really kind of fundamental and obvious, but I think it's like one thing I've learned over the last kind of couple of months is like you can never stop really learning, can you?
No.
There's always like new stuff to learn from books. Like I'm reading a lot of books right now.
Yeah, well, at the start of the year, I think we'd talked about it on a previous podcast. I made sure that I was buying. So basically, whenever I see a physical a recommendation of a book, because I used to listen to everything on Audible, and I'll listen to odd things on there, but it probably has to be more of like a autobiography. I prefer to listen to that rather than read it. So but every time I see something mentioned in something I'm interested in, I've just bought the physical book, even if I'm not ready to read it. So I've just stacked. And then at the beginning of the year, my aim was to maybe potentially read 2 a month. I've struggled some months, but
yeah,
it depends on the size of the book. But I find as well, if I'm stressed or anything, like in general life, feeling anxious, stressed, anything like that, if I just read every night, it fixes it. Yeah. It depends obviously what you're reading, but like personal development stuff, massive.
It helps reading personal development. I think sometimes it's all a little bit like woolly and airy.
Yeah.
But then I think you need it sometimes.
Yeah, like there was I might be jumping ahead, but so we might be going into this, but there's one I read recently. The author, Ryan Holiday. So I've read every single one of his books, and the one I've read like very recent, almost last month, Stillness is the Key. Great book. But it isn't about it being, because some of the things in there will appear, personal development, like you say, woolly, but sometimes it's when they just say things that you think, oh, actually, yeah, I am doing that right now, or yeah, actually, you can kind of resonate to it. That's what helps, I think.
Sometimes it can be like I think the 80-20 rule applies to books quite a lot. Like it'll always be a little part of a book that makes this massive kind of impact. I think Nindy talks about that in here actually.
It's better to read them more than once as well. I've not done that often. There's a couple that I've read more than once, like 2 or 3.
Well, Ryan Holiday's Obstacle is the Way. I think I've read that like 4 times.
That was the first one I read. Well, was it the first one I read of him? He did that. Is it Trust Me, I'm Lying? I think I might have read that, and then The Obstacle in the Way one was the best. The one that I thought, I like what this guy's saying, so I bought them all.
Yeah, that was a very good
Ego
book.
is the Enemy as well, but I think I listened to that on Audible. But I do prefer reading physical books.
We're starting a little book club thing with Nindy. So if you finish a book, you basically pass the book on to someone else.
Yeah.
So if you've got physical books,
I've got a lot. That's what I've been buying really. I've got loads of stuff, but it kind of swings in roundabouts. So like at the beginning of the year, it was a lot of personal development, like mind books, stuff on. Like there's one that I read. I can't actually remember the title now. I actually didn't finish it. I think I've got halfway through it, and it's to do with fear, and fear's the key or something. Like I can't remember what it's called, and it's written by a guy that does close protection and how he can spot someone's fear before it's even happened, so you can spot. Right. And you do it, your intuition spots it, and he basically talks about how you can spot it yourself. I read that, and so I went through a stage of that, and then it moved to all sorts of stuff. Like now it's all about money. That's what I've been reading about now, financial stuff really.
Yeah. No, I think it's obviously important. Like if you're in business and you're wanting to be successful to any degree,
Yeah.
you got to read, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. I don't get why people don't, in general, read.
I think people just stop reading after school.
Yeah, it's like this stigma attached to it. I remember I've had a conversation in with friends in WhatsApp groups where we've talked about a subject, and it'll be quite a complex subject. It could be like general economics, and it's like, oh, you're really knowledgeable on this. You like dropping these knowledge bombs. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not knowledgeable. I've just read some books and I've got ideas of how things work. You should read books, and the stigma attached to it is, oh no, I'm not. I can't read books. No, I'm not good at reading. It's like, how can you not be good at it? You can be good at it. I know there are certain elements where it's tough for some people to read, but it's like that stigma attached from school, that isn't it? Where you think reading.
Well, it's just the more you do it, the better you get it.
Yeah.
Like I would love to sit and read a physical book more, but the problem I have is just time. Like I can't like sit for an hour, and get through a book productively. So what I do is I drive that back to my parents basically every other week.
To them on Audible.
Yeah, so every 2 weeks I've got a good 8 hours of driving where I can basically finish a book. So every 2 weeks I'm pretty much finishing a book.
Yeah, that would be, wouldn't it? It's because they're usually about that long, and if you speed it up a little bit.
I listen on 1.75.
Jeez,
like very fast.
I'm 1.2, and I think 1.5 sounds too fast.
But you know what? When you
get used to it.
When you listen to it and then you put it at 1, it's like they're in slow motion. It's like, what's going on? Why is it so slow? Because you get used to the sound. But the weird thing about that is, even though it might appear as though the brain's not absorbing it, it does. It's like, have you ever seen those things on like online where it's a video and the text is moving really fast, and it's like it makes you read it.
Yeah.
But the text is moving that fast. You're like, how could I be processing this at this speed?
Yeah.
But you're still actually understanding what it's saying.
Your brain is, yeah.
It's pretty weird, really.
No, it's Well, I the way I pretty much read is that before bed. It gets me to sleep as well. Perfect time to do it. Because otherwise I sit in bed on my phone. So it's like, right, phone down, alarms on. I'll just pick up the book for half an hour.
Yeah. I think, so there's a point here about, if we're relating it to business a little bit, and Indy's put a little kind of story in about Walmart. So basically, what do people panic buy before storms? That's the question. So it mined its treasure trove of data. So Walmart mined its treasure trove of data and found out something it never knew before. People in the US like to buy strawberry Pop-Tarts in advance of a storm, along with the other essentials like bottled water, batteries, fuel containers, etc. Knowing this has changed the way Walmart responds to upcoming storms. So more Pop-Tarts are put on sale. It's a win-win because punters get their Pop-Tarts and Walmart gets a nice little profit earner. So the whole point, I guess, is like, if you really analyze data, customer behavior specifically, you can probably make quite a bit more money if you know how they respond to things. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
from a business perspective.
Yeah, I mean, well, not many businesses look at data properly, do they? Well, tech businesses are pretty much the ones that are renowned for it, but a lot of other businesses wouldn't. I would. Well, I would never know, but would you assume, you take a local restaurant, they can collect data. But But it's different because it's not like tech data or, data that comes from people surfing the web. But they could collect data based off of how people order, what they do, how to do things.
Yeah.
I remember actually, I suppose this would sort of relate to data, but maybe not. When all the restaurants and pubs opened outside, when that happened in the UK, when it was like, right, they're all opening outside. So everybody was like, right, they're back open and heading down to beer gardens and whatnot. And I went in my local pub, and the service was terrible. Like, basically, it was, and again, this might not relate to data fully, but kind of does, because they could have been better prepared. So they obviously set all the tables out. Everybody's sat down. Everybody's waiting. You're not allowed to move from the tables because of the restrictions and things. You've got to stay seated. Table service, that's fine. And I remember sat there thinking, service is really bad. And it wasn't necessarily because it was really bad. It's just they'd not prepared properly for it. They'd not thought about it. Probably not looked at, right, how many tables have we got in data around that, and like, how can we pull as much revenue as possible out of all of these tables? I remember saying with who I was with at the time there, just saying they'd make probably 50% more revenue, maybe even 100% if they just had somebody walking around saying, do you want another drink? Do you want to order some more food or whatever? But they didn't have that, so you're waiting until someone came in a near vicinity to shout and say, yeah, I just want to order another drink or whatever. Yeah. And I just thought, how much missed revenue is that? And that's probably analysing some form of data. I don't know what data, but they could have been better prepared for that.
I think what happens is, as businesses started opening back up, they're probably just looking at what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
Like, they'll just say, like, that pub down the road's doing this, so we'll just do the same thing, but not actually thinking about how could we do it slightly differently.
Yeah.
I think, given the situation, it's probably like, I don't know, like, it just depends, doesn't it? Like, different businesses are so adaptive. Like, if you look at McDonald's, have you ever seen Founder, the film?
Yeah, is that the one where he takes it? It's of the story of it. Yeah.
So he like gets it from the brothers or whatever, but you know they were really strategic in the way that they laid their fast food restaurants out.
Yeah.
In fact, McDonald's basically pioneered the structure of how the back of the back of the restaurant should move, because it makes it fast. Like that's why it was fast food, because of the processing in the way that they did it. And then all of a sudden that got adopted by like all the other, like your Burger Kings, your KFCs and whatever. So it's just interesting, like that would be data driven decision, wouldn't it? It's they're looking at how much speed is involved with making the food. I think airports do it all the time. Like airports have to measure, their key metric in an airport is like how much efficiency is there between getting someone walking through the door onto a seat in the airplane. Like, essentially they have to make, because if a flight misses its timing,
it knocks everything else out, doesn't it?
It's like a massive hit on profits and everything else. Like, it's got a cascading effect. So it's just interesting, isn't it? Like,
they do it in duty free as well. They'll have analysed footfall, and then now within how they set up duty free is they'll walk. And Manchester Airport, you have to walk. Or you could just walk from one side of like where you kind of have gone through the initial check-in. You could get to where the lounge is much quicker than you do, but they basically snake you through this duty free. And the weird thing is because they'll just be monitoring this.
Yeah.
If you look at the duty free and how it's set up in that airport, and it's similar in others, you could cut through and just walk straight through really fast, but nobody does.
It's the shape as well, isn't it?
Everybody moves
it's almost like
on
an oval.
Yeah.
Like the shape of the duty free is always like a round thing, so you kind of naturally will walk
and you
around.
it's weird how you just all follow the same. You don't go right through the middle of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's some good like questions here. I might as well ask these because they just seem, I don't know the answer to any of these, so it just says just a good unscientific test on general knowledge. So, what's the capital of Chile? Like,
I don't know that.
I don't know either.
I did have a look at these questions before, but I didn't Google them. I thought
I'm going to Google it now because we may as well make it.
I feel like I should know that.
Santiago.
Yeah, I feel like I should have known that. That's definitely something I should have known. I feel because I generally I say this and I know another question on there. I might know that one actually.
In which year did Britain originally join the EU? It used to be known as the EEC.
That's got to be when I kind of remember that happening, and I would say maybe, I don't know, maybe 2002.
Let's see. No, it's Britain, Ireland, and Denmark joined the EEC in 1973.
All right. I was thinking maybe the new European Union, but then again, I might be way off there anyway. I just sort of remember that happening.
These are tough questions. What does AC button on a calculator stand for? Oh my God.
Automated clear. I don't know.
Automatic clear or all clear.
All clear, maybe, yeah.
Because
there's C, isn't there?
What does AC on a calculator mean? It means all clear.
Yeah, that's a good shot. Because there's the C button next to it, isn't it?
Yeah. So what does C mean then?
Does that just clear your last action?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, C is for your previous action. AC deletes all the history. Every time I press the history thing on the calculator, it never saves anything. Probably because I press AC.
Yeah.
And not C.
Phones are a bit more intuitive with that because they've changed it into more of like a back button, haven't they? On some of them, so it's not. They don't use the same terminology anymore. The same.
Last one. The capital of New Zealand.
Auckland.
Wellington has been the capital of New Zealand since 1865. New Zealand's first capital was Old Russell in 1840. Auckland was the second capital in 1841 until 1865, when it was permanently moved to Wellington after an argument that persisted for a decade. So it used to be Auckland.
I wouldn't have known the other. I should know that because I generally would have okay knowledge on.
I'm bad at geography.
It's usually based off of footy because I know where most capital cities are based off of the national teams because they have the stadiums in that city.
Yeah.
So it's like you think of, well, England have got Ukraine. I know it's Kiev because that's where the stadium is. So
what would like your specialist subject be? That's the question here. If you were on a mastermind.
Football. Sport. But I don't know if you can have football as a singular thing, can you? It's more like sport. It'd be sport.
Probably sports.
Sport or potentially popular music. I think I'd be all right at that, but not the history of music.
Yeah. I think for me it would be
anything to do with, if it was hip hop, I could go right. Could go quite far back. I'm probably pretty knowledgeable on that, even to modern day. But then,
I think I'm alright with like some history maybe, and probably a bit of science here and there. That'd probably be me.
Science, biology, and
maybe a little
what
bit,
part of science? Like, could you name all the periodic elements, or the majority?
Not chemistry.
I couldn't do that now.
No, not chemistry. It would be more like to do with
human biology,
the body, probably, and maybe like psychology, I guess, like the mind, probably that kind of thing.
You need to listen. I tell you what's a good podcast that I've listened to a few episodes of it that you'll like. It's I don't know if have you heard of Lex Friedman before, or Friedman? I don't know how you pronounce it. He's got a very good podcast. So what he is basically like a Joe Rogan style podcast, but he's building an AI company. I think that's what I actually don't know what his company does, but I know he's trying to do something with AI.
Yeah.
Anyway. So when you think of like a Joe Rogan podcast, which I've listened to, we've all listened to loads in the past, he'll generally bring on the more light-hearted conversations, and there are some good conversations on there where you're like, oh, that's profound, that's interesting. This Lex guy, he brings people on, but his conversations go very technical, and it's way more knowledgeable. So there's one, I actually found him through a podcast with that Vitalik Buterin, the Ethereum guy. So he did a recent one only a few weeks ago. So I listened to that and I was like, God, he knows his stuff. He understands. Like he's talking to Vitalik, and he understands that subject. Whereas when you watch something like Joe Rogan, he'll speak to someone, and you can tell Joe Rogan doesn't have an understanding of the subject. He's learning as well as us. But it's sometimes better to listen to someone where they have a bit of an understanding because they ask better questions that go a bit deeper. But he did one with, and the reason I bring this up is I can't remember the guy's name now, but it is a recent one. And they talk about the mind and how basically consciousness, and how when you're like, they even get into, and you almost can see this could be a possibility. Like, are we in a video game right now? Like they talk about that as being a different reality. Are we in a video? Is someone playing this game right now?
Yeah.
And the game's becoming more popular, which is why the population's growing quicker, because they're spawning more new characters. Yeah. And I started to think about it, and then he talks about how when you're dreaming and you know, maybe you dream about meeting your favorite sports star or whatever, like that, could that have happened? Could that not have been a dream? And maybe this is a dream now. It's like the way the guy talks about it, I was like, it was blowing my mind when I was listening to it. I'm thinking,
into that kind of stuff.
It was, a lot of it was going over my head, and I was thinking, he mentioned a few books, one book in particular, which I can't remember the name of now, which I thought I need to just get that book, but it might be a bit heavy. But he speaks to people all around that subject, and very knowledgeable people that just understand. They talk about that DMT and ayahuasca and how all of that works and how they go through these. People go through these things consistently just so they can try and understand what's going on the other side and whatnot.
There's the guy who wrote Brave New World, Aldous Huxley. He wrote a book called The Doors of Perception, which he wrote it a couple of years later, and it was all about LSD. He talks about somas, which is what the show on TV they talk about. They take somas for their food. But somas was like a classic painkiller back in the day, and apparently it was like a very addictive soma from back in the day, painkiller from back in the day. But he said it had all these interesting hallucinogenic effects.
Yeah. So you talk about mushrooms a lot as well, and how they use them. I mean, they go through. One thing that was interesting was he was saying that there's lots of scientists that do this. They go through just so they can see, right, what's this, how does it work, whatever, and that a lot of them all have this same experience, that they get given all this profound knowledge, but as soon as you kind of effectively come back into reality, you can't bring that profound knowledge you've got into present day. Like, you can't make sense of it.
There's a guy called Graham Hancock who is on Joe Rogan. I think he speaks
to him. Actually.
Yeah, he's on Joe Rogan twice. He's done 2 shows, and he goes really deep into that. Really interesting guy, because his entire life is dedicated to like what civilizations existed before us. That's like literally his thing, and all his arguments are just like, science is lying, it's not right, and we're not the first people that were here. There were like dozens of us before us, and he backs it all up. With
How does he have proof for that, or
There's loads of like archaeological sites, fossils, things like that have been uncovered but haven't been approved by like mainstream science, basically. So science will shun it and say, no, that can't be true. Like the Amazon rainforest, like the Amazon rainforest is not I'm not going to make a definitive statement, but in his view, it's not a natural rainforest. It was crafted and created, and he basically makes the argument that when they've gone and analyzed that forest, there's like certain chemicals that are used in the soil that have been planted in there purposefully because it absorbs water a different way and it allows plants to grow a different way, so it's more sustainable for someone to live there. Also, there's valleys, there's roads, there's all kinds of different stuff in the rainforest that we don't even know about.
Yeah, is it like overgrown? It's like...
Yeah, like the rainforest is the size of
I've heard of that before. I've not heard of everything you've said there, but I've heard of there's hidden cities in there that
underground. Like there's stuff that goes underground, and when you go into these caves, there's like plants growing from the ceiling or from the top of the cave, stuff like that. And essentially what he's saying is that the rainforest is basically the size of India. Yeah. So there's an area on the planet the size of India that we've not even like looked at. We don't even know what's in there yet. So that's his point. It's like there's so much not been uncovered properly.
Yeah.
But we've made a lot of assumptions. And also we make this assumption that time is linear. And what he means is like we think that when time started, we were really stupid. And as time goes on, we're really smart.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be like that. It could have actually been that we were fucking really smart, like 20,000 years ago, and then we just became really stupid.
Yeah.
Like, so we don't even know.
Well, that could go down to, I mean, maybe if you look at like AI and computers, if you look at the way we're going as a human race right now, it is going to automation, AI, everything driven by computers. So naturally that over time will make us as humans less intelligent because we rely on the computers to be the intelligence. Now, it doesn't mean because someone's got to create that, which is an intelligent thing to do. But I don't know much about AI other than I know that from seeing comments, it learns itself. It then produces itself. So
replicates itself.
Yeah, so there's no need for that human intervention after a certain point. So it's like, is that going to... Well, I mean, I would say right now, we almost look kind of stupid as human beings, the way we interact with our phones. Like
Yeah.
that's life now. You just sit and read status updates from other people. That you prefer to do that than pick up a book and read about something that interests you anymore. It's always, it's almost zoned as it. Well, they see the memes. It zombifies the entire human race effectively. I was watching Wimbledon last night. Andy Murray was playing, and mentioning phones there. It was like a break in play, 30 seconds. And literally, the camera went on it was towards the end of the game, so it was quite an exciting finish. Cameras went onto the audience. The amount of people that would just head down on the phones, and it just almost looked like a lemmings or zombies just going, right, I'm not being entertained there anymore. So rather than speak to who I'm with, I'll just straight on the phone.
There's a brilliant documentary on this platform called BitChute, which is a little bit like controversial. Not everyone likes it, but there's a guy on there called Mouthy Buddha, and he's done this amazing documentary on how we're just like poisoned by our phones. It's really powerful stuff, man. But it just makes you step back and say, like, what the hell is going on?
It does.
Because
I mean, the phone in itself is it's AI, isn't it? It's like we're now using it as AI. I've got Alexa. My kids use Alexa. They'll ask questions.
Well, it knows you, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And
it records and then it tracks and measures and
over time, like when we got Alexa, my youngest, he couldn't really speak well, so he'd try and tell Alexa, I want this song on, I want that. Never used to work. It works perfectly with him now. Perfect. Yeah. So over time, it's obviously learned this different voice, this different sound, and thought, right, I get that now.
Yeah.
Because it's on all the time.
It is pretty crazy, really. But yeah, I think, I suppose bringing it back, like knowledge is like a really like elastic thing because it depends on where it comes from as well.
Yeah.
Like, as an example, right? Like, let's take the COVID thing as an example. There's two massive, like, disparities, two schools of thought where one group thinks that they're really knowledgeable scientifically and they understand exactly what it is.
Yeah.
The other group is like, we're really knowledgeable on the darker side of this, quote, conspiracy, and we're really knowledgeable. We know what's going on. So it's like, technically you don't know who's right.
Yeah.
Like, it could be anybody, but they both got different types of knowledge that back up their kind of thing. Funny thing I saw, actually, just a bit of a sidestep, is on LinkedIn yesterday. This is just backing up the whole thing about like humans, like, and how we're just so stupid.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like, so there's somebody put a post up saying like that it's been recommended that animals should be given the COVID jab, right?
Right.
Now, obviously, there's all this uproar. It's like, well, I don't want to give my dog or my cat a COVID jab. Why would I do that? So, but then I posted and just said, like, you know what? How come nobody's acting like this when we're saying we're going to vaccinate kids?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because isn't that like just as bad, or if not worse?
Yeah, at this stage it is. And I think, it's people, again, what you were saying before about it's important to understand where you get your knowledge from as well. You should never take any sort of knowledge off any comment section on any social media site. Like, you even have a look at, right now in the news, lots on cryptocurrency. There's things happening there. There's things moving. It's not going away. And you see, like, you'll see a post on Twitter about I think what it was El Salvador. They basically did the legal tender for Bitcoin. And I thought, and it was a CNBC article on it. So I thought, I'm going to have a click and read the comments here and just see what kind of everyone's views is. And then you had like those that, and you can tell on Twitter anyway, because there's like this crypto Twitter, so you can tell who's into crypto. You can just tell by the profile images, crypto punks and all that. And you could, they're coming in with this like, positive attitude towards it. And then there was comments of like, this is the stupidest thing in the world. Bitcoin is killing the planet with its electric consumption. And then someone who understands how it all works is then commenting saying, well, here's a full report on that thing being debunked. And then the person doesn't respond. And then there's another comment like, Bitcoin's a scam, it's a Ponzi scheme. Like, crypto in itself is a Ponzi scheme. And it's like, you can tell from a comment like that they've not taken any time to actually understand what it is. It's
snap reactions, aren't they?
Yeah, and then what happens with that, the danger of that is that one comment that someone's made, and they've made it in a strong way, someone reading it will just read it and think that's true. Like, oh yeah, he's right.
Yeah.
So, because he's saying it quite confidently. He's right. So, and it's like
It is
so
weird.
dangerous.
Like the social media thing, like, it's just so toxicating sometimes because, like, one of the if we talk about COVID a lot on this fucking thing, but like the other day, okay, over the last few months, like there were like all these talks about like how the vaccine has like a magnetic component to it.
Yeah.
Right. And like I didn't have any view on it really because I hadn't seen it. So I was like, well, maybe not. Like I don't know. And then like someone I know basically like got the vaccine. They thought I will give it a go, and they stuck a pound coin like to their arm, and I was just like, that's weird.
Yeah, it is. That
so
is weird.
That for me is verification that okay, well then it is magnetic because I can see it. So that's where my knowledge is coming from. That now, if you go online and Google it, like, does the vaccine have any magnetic component? Is it magnetic? Like, can you stick your thing and whatever? Like, stick something in your arm? It would just say no. And you've got fact checkers, you've got Reuters, CNN, all these massive platforms that are saying it's all debunked, it's not real and it's fake. So then it's like,
you've got to look at the new. Yeah, I mean it's the mainstream media issue with, and again going on. That's a prime example of it. Going on to like the crypto again. Donald Trump coming out and saying Bitcoin's a scam. They will put that on the front page of CNBC, but not put that a country in our world has actually passed a bill to make it legal tender, which is the more important news there. Like, obviously the country that's doing that, Donald Trump saying Bitcoin's a scam, like what, based on what? On what? Like, there is nothing, it's baseless just comment, isn't it? And it just, for me, that
the mad thing is, he's probably not even said it like that. He's probably said something different and then it's like spun a different way.
It's crazy, really. But that's, see, I mean, I don't read, I don't even pay attention to mainstream media anymore. I know, obviously, again, with the COVID thing, I had a friend that had gone on holiday to Portugal, that basically, it was around the time in the UK where they'd made Portugal an amber country, so anyone coming back had to quarantine. So he actually travelled home the day before that was going to go live. And on the news, all the news channels, the main ones in the UK, it was all about holidaymakers scrambling home, holidaymakers scrambling on flights. It's chaotic, it's chaos. And he was in the airport and he was sending me pictures of, he said it's normal. It's just, you go on holiday, airports are busy, check-ins are, you're always queuing wherever you're going. He said it's just normal, but there's these cameramen in there from the mainstream media that are zooming in on crowds.
Yeah.
And then the actual journalists have are going round and asking everyone. He got asked, have you had to pay any more money to get home? So they've gone in with this rhetoric that we're going to find people that back up what we want to put on to get the clicks on our articles. So then everything you saw on TV, everything you saw in newspapers was all about airports, congested, chaotic, holidaymakers scrambling to get home, holidaymakers out of pocket, holidaymakers having to spend more money to get home. Now, don't get me wrong, there was probably a few that had that issue, but the majority weren't. They were just going home as normal. Yeah. And I was just thinking, to everybody else on the outside that doesn't know that, they're looking at that thinking, oh my God, look at that. That is incredible. This is so bad, but it isn't how it's painted out, and that's mainstream media with their own agenda.
It's very like misleading.
It is.
It's like the London protests. Like,
they weren't even covered, were they?
I did not see a single bit.
I saw a few images on Twitter, and the amount of people there, I was shocked that.
It was massive.
I tell you what did get pushed though on mainstream media, the football and how fans were together at Wembley and how that was and it was all about, look at this. This will be. I saw someone post on Twitter. It wasn't a journalist. It was just somebody with a picture of Wembley inside saying, "Here's the new variant, Wembley variant." I was thinking, there's a lot less people there than were at that entire demonstration in London. And again, I've not seen any videos of that. I've just saw pictures.
It's even the idea of variants, right? Like, we've been fed the idea that there are variants, and the reason we believe there's variants isn't because we've got this data-driven decision to say there's variants. It's just because like all the numbers are going up because there's a new variant. So it's like that's what we latch onto. So like the Delta variant has come from India apparently, and like, you know, if you really dig into it and start asking the right questions, and not even like go against it, just ask the right questions.
Yeah.
Like, how are we measuring the difference between variants?
Yeah.
And how are we so sure that it's coming from where it's coming from, right? Because what I saw was a story of how a couple of months ago there were pictures of people falling out of like cars and things like that in India, and there's like all these bodies burning and stuff like that. I mean, when I go back home, that's just fucking every day.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's not anything new. Like for me, like we see it all the time.
Yeah.
And just seeing a picture of someone falling out of a car doesn't mean that there's a new variant of a deadly virus. It's like they don't correlate with one another unless you say it does. Like if you say it does, then it does. But if you actually just look at it and say, well, that doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and also with all the bodies are on fire, that's normal. That's not like a new thing. Like we've always done that.
Yeah.
So it's just because the journalist has taken a picture, stuck it on a paper and said, "I'll look at all these people dying." But
Yeah,
people
yeah.
die in India all the time. It's an impoverished country. Like it's poor.
When COVID first happened, there was those videos circulating of people just literally almost dropping dead in China, wasn't there? And you don't know who creates this stuff, whether it is media driven, whether it's somebody that's just trying to throw some spanners in. I don't know. You don't know where these come from. But I remember seeing that because at the very beginning it was like, Jesus, this isn't this, because that was where it obviously started. That was where it was then coming into. We were starting to get testing and all of that or whatever, and I was thinking, Jesus, this is pretty scary. And then we've not seen any of that in this country.
No, it's just
that video doesn't say. There's no other videos like that, like from that follow on from that.
No, I always just say ask the right questions. Like, why are we not covering the protests? And it's because if those protests went on TV, the reason it can't be on TV is because other people will feel influenced by the protest. So they say, well, why are they protesting? Well, they're protesting because they feel that their human rights are being taken away.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden then you've got millions of people who have watched that on TV saying, why are they saying that our human rights are being taken away? And then they'll start looking and learning and understanding, oh, actually, they are being taken away. So that's why it can't go on TV. Like, that's not a conspiracy.
Yeah.
That's just fucking social engineering, really. Like, it is what it is. And whether that means the virus is real, not real, I don't really care. Like, but what it does mean is that there's manipulation going on.
Yeah.
Which just shouldn't happen, really.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, censorship all over social media that we see, which is a shame. But I'm not even on social media anymore. I think I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't check in there that often. But I switched them all off. The only one I use is Twitter, because I do like to keep up on what's going on right now. I feel that's the only one where you actually see different sides to it, even though that in itself is fully censored and people's posts get removed there. But that's the only one. And Reddit, I think I use Reddit quite a lot, but then those are the only two things.
I like a bit of Reddit. You get a lot of random
good stuff on there.
Random stuff on there. Very strange topics, like
There's a topic for anything on there. That's you can just
even
get
stuff
lost.
that you wouldn't even think of. All kinds of random stuff.
No, I like that one. And then it's just that's it pretty much. But then everything's everyone's opinion, isn't it? As well, even the books we read, the people's opinions on things.
Yeah, you know what? Like it says, like the question from Nindy here is like, is knowledge actually power? Like to be honest, like I think it depends.
It does depend, yeah.
It depends where it comes from.
Depends how you use it as well. Like I know, like for example, over the past few months, you've read different books than what I've read completely. So I'll have taken different things from them. You'll have taken different things from yours. We're not both going to have the same knowledge. So it's how you use it, really. So it's all I know is I feel better in life in general when I'm reading consistently, as opposed to just moving through life like a zombie. And being oblivious. I mean, I even spoke to my mum about it as well, and I was like, "Oh, you should read this book. It's really good. You should read this one over the lockdown." And I got a similar response of, "I don't really enjoy reading, or I'm not good at reading." It's like you've just got to do it. Like just pick it up. I say it to my family members all the time. you borrow this book, use that, you'll like this, read that, read this. If not, just get an Audible account and listen then if you don't want to read the books. But none of them ever follow through on it.
No.
Not really.
I think reading a book physically, you're building a skill as well.
Yeah.
Because you're having to actually read and go at a pace, whereas when you're listening to a book, it's like you're talking to someone. So you're not necessarily building the reading skill. It's still good because you're absorbing knowledge, but there's a skill that you're developing when you read as well. I think that's quite important.
Listening, I enjoy podcasts. I've got a few that I like to listen to, and that'll be daily. 2 dog walks and driving in here on a day. I'll listen to podcasts really there. But that's only because I think your example of having 8 hours, I would 100% listen to a full book if I had that time.
Yeah.
But when it's short, 30 minutes dog walk here, 30 minutes there, it's harder to listen to a longer book like that because you end up stopping and starting. But podcasts are good for that.
No, 100%. All right, so I guess we're about 40 minutes in, so we could probably look at wrapping this up. But I think a good question that Nindy's got here is, I'm just scrolling to it 1 second. So, yeah, so what book have you read that had a massive impact on either who you are, how your life's turned out, or just the world at large? It's a hard question.
Yeah,
really.
It is. I liked the first book I ever read before I started business was Richard Branson's Losing My Virginity. It's called, all about him building Virgin. I remember that. I like The Richest Man in Babylon.
That's a good book.
That's one that I've read 2 or 3 times, and it's better every single time you read it. Recent ones, it's hard really, because that Stillness is the Key has been good. That's probably been one of the better ones this year. Yeah, I'm reading. The one I'm reading right now is called, which is interesting. It's God, I've forgotten its name. It's The Infinite Machine, which is about the entire history of Ethereum. That's good. That's kept me very engaged. I've struggled to put that down at night. And I've got another one as well, which has been a recommendation. Which I'm trying to get through The Infinite Machine so I can get onto it. Devil Take the Hindmost, and it's an entire history of financial speculation. It's meant to be mega, but I've flicked through it, and it looks heavy.
Right.
But so I've got that, and then there's another one on deflation as well that I want to read that's been recommended. But just different things. Then I've read one. Again, I jump around. I read The History of Pirates only a couple of months ago, and that was interesting. Yeah. But yeah, just random stuff. But I would say this year, Stillness is the Key, and overall probably that first biography from Branson, and maybe The Richest Man in Babylon. There's quite a few though. There is a few.
It would be a few, wouldn't it?
Think and Grow Rich was another one. But these are those standard ones that everybody.
That's the first book I ever read. Like that was to do with personal development.
Yeah,
that was the first one.
Yeah,
I read it in my local library when I was like 16.
God, that's a good age to read that.
Yeah, very, very weird time when I read it because I didn't understand.
No.
Like I didn't...
That's one of those that I think if you read a few times, it's different each time. If you read it now, you'd think differently about it now.
It's a philosophical book, isn't it? It's not saying... Because the thing is, all it's really saying is like your mindset is basically what gets you there.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, but I don't understand. Like, how can I just like think it?
Yeah.
And then become successful? Like, it doesn't work.
What it is, it's like, well, I suppose it's all about if you're thinking positively about it, then you take opportunities, don't you? As opposed to, I'm not doing that.
Think differently, don't you?
Yeah.
I think for me, it was Think and Grow Rich has to be there. That was the first personal development book I wrote. That I read. That was really important for me, and that got me onto the path of like just changing the way I think about things. I think Rich Dad Poor Dad was good.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
There's Millionaire Fast Lane. That was really good.
I think I've read that. I can't remember it, though, if I have, so.
Ready, Fire, Aim. That was a big one for me. That kind of taught me about how just it doesn't have to be perfect and you just need to, like, take action and move. And then recently, I'd say... Like, honestly, like, David Icke's books are fucking good. People probably got a bit of it. He's a bit like...
I've got halfway through that. The Trigger, it's called.
Yeah.
But it's huge. This is the thing.
All his books are like that.
Yeah, there's
Like,
what there's there's a book called Titan, and it's about Rockefeller and how he built his empire, and that is huge. And it's one of these books because I listen to like Ryan Holiday. He recommends books all the time, so I'm on his email list. So he'll say, right, I recommend these. These are the best reads I've had this year, last year. So that was one of the things that opened me up to like reading diverse stuff, because a lot of his was, he had personal development things, but then he'd be like, he recommended one about leaders and all sorts of stuff. So he recommended that Titan. I started that, but it's that big, and it's like, it's not even just thick. It's the font is really small as well. So you're taking a lot longer to get through individual pages, and sometimes reading the physical book, that can be quite hard, because you're like, oh, I'm hardly anywhere through this, and I feel like I've been reading it for hours. So Ike's books are similar, because the one I've got, which is the Trigger one, I got about halfway through it, ended up ditching it and moving to another book, and it's just because of the sheer size of it.
They are big books. I mean,
like, how does he even write books like that so
it's all he does, isn't it? It's like literally what he spends his life doing, is just writing really long books. The topics are so big, though, aren't they? Like they go off into so many strands, directions. Like, it's easy to start.
Find, when, I don't know if you find it with his, he jumps around a lot. So he goes on tangents and then back to this thing, tangent again.
He'll go from like 9/11 to an alien.
To
like the Queen. And then back somewhere else. No, it's good. He's got some, if you read it neutrally and like just look at what he's saying, like he makes some very good points about things that I think makes you think about things a little bit differently.
I think you've just got to look at it as well, because most people are shut off to anyone that's got a really
radical view.
Yeah, and I think just read it just to see what the view is. Like they say, there's the book on Hitler that's meant to be an incredible read. I can't remember what it's called. Like, my mind's going blank on these books, but a huge one, and a lot of people read that and take elements of that as obviously there's a hell of a lot of negatives around that period of time, but understanding his thought process and who he was at that time, there's apparently things from that you can take out of that and think, actually, there's some learning from that. It's just people have these weird radical views, and it's just read and just see what they're saying.
Sometimes things just seem,
you don't have to
too absurd.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
For people to want to read, and it's called it's cognitive dissonance is the term. It's like when something is that drastic that it will change your foundational beliefs, so you have to reject it.
Yeah.
And this is why things like vaccines, any kind of conspiracy, the reason it turns into a conspiracy is because of cognitive dissonance, where people aren't able to shake their fundamentals enough. Like, I don't believe in Christianity, for example. Like, I can literally highlight why Christianity is a pagan belief, and basically it's based on our stars and astrology, and I don't really believe Jesus existed. That's my view. Now, if I said that to my parents, they'd be like, you're Satan, basically.
Yeah.
But I've got my view, and I've got quite a good logical explanation as to why it's shaped the way it's shaped.
Yeah.
But my parents just wouldn't accept it. So it's just that whole thing, isn't it? It's like, where it is a difficult thing, like with knowledge. It's like, some people will take it on, some people won't, but you got to take what you do from it yourself. Like, what can you take from that bit of information that's going to make you better? So
reading stuff you're interested in. I mean, I do it not just to gain knowledge. I mean, genuinely interested in stuff. Like I mentioned there, the one I'm reading, The Infant Machine. I'm genuinely interested in Ethereum, crypto in general. I think it's probably going to be a new age over the next decade. So I'm like, right, I'll read about this, see if it piques my interest. Then I'm reading. I'm like, actually, I'm really enjoying understanding how these things came about. And even that story in itself, it's a timeline of events of Ethereum. I've taken things from that and thought, and I can kind of match them to our business and some of the struggles we've been through. They went through the same. All they're doing is building something new and they're going through the same issues that we've been through, really.
Yeah. Like, some of the last books I've read are just a lot of the stuff that I'm trying to implement at work are directly impacted from the books that I've read. I read Star Principle by Richard Koch, which was a great book. And that's just about like having a unique proposition, essentially. Purple Cow by Seth Godin.
Yeah.
Sick book.
Ryan Holiday just recommended that in the email this week. Actually.
Amazing book.
He's got another one, Seth Godin, that...
This is Marketing, and he's got Tribe.
There was 2 in that lineup that he's recommended, Purple Cow, and there's another one.
He's got a few good ones. Like the good thing with Seth's books is they're not long. If you Audible them, you can get through like 3 or 4 of his books in like 10 hours.
Yeah.
Like, so that's why I've gotten through quite a few of his. But he just has really good nuggets. Like the Purple Cow book was literally the reason why, like, I wanted to do the meeting about the product, because it was like, it just made me think about the entire business differently.
Yeah.
And it's just things like that. You just don't know what you're going to get from a book sometimes.
No.
And like, and again, like 80% of the book isn't really like relevant. Like it is relevant to a degree, but it's not going to change anything for us. But like that small little bit was like, oh shit, like why aren't we doing that?
If you think about this as well, I know we probably need to wrap up soon, but right, you've effectively got insight like you would get from an expensive consultant in a £10 book. Because if you brought a consult like I've not read the Purple Cow, but if it's I assume about being different branding, whatever. If you brought a brand consultant in or a product consultant in, you would pay thousands and thousands of pounds or dollars for them to say you need to do this, and with a $10 book, you've been able to find that insight yourself. That's what books can do effectively.
Yeah, if you look at the best entrepreneurs of our time, they all read a lot.
Yeah, every single one of them.
A lot of books, like probably more than I'd ever be able to handle. But I know Bill Gates reads like 20 books a month or something. Yeah, it's mental.
Yeah, he has it. There's I don't know if you've seen that documentary of him, but he carries around literally a bag, and all it is books.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Crazy. Like that guy probably knows a lot of stuff.
This is the thing. If the more you soak up, the more, I suppose, the more you appear that you are intelligent, even though it isn't. You're regurgitating things.
It's other people's info, isn't it?
Yeah, but you're just widening your brain. That's all it is, and just seeing different sides to things.
Well, I think this is how innovation happens. It's like you take a concept from someone and you mold it and you change it and you make it your own. Like, yeah. So cool. Well, we'll wrap it up there. That's gone on almost an hour. We've got an interview in 28 minutes.
I know.
I've got to go to the gym still. So cool. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that, got some value from it. If you liked it, make sure you leave a review. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit like, leave a comment, and then we'll see you in the next episode.